All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of our Points in the Paint podcast, episode number 6, the week of February 4th. Dave Fleming, Sean Farnham, great to have you all with us. We got lots to get to this week, including a recap of the night on Saturday night. Sean and I were in Moraga for another edition of the great rivalry, and it was another great game. St. Mary's, Gonzaga, the game of the year so far in the league. We'll go over the other stuff that happened last week, look ahead to next week's action. Our special guest this week from the Lions of LMU. LMU has won 5 straight WCC games. I had to triple check, and they have not done that since 1991. 5 straight
Amazing.
conference wins.
And we'll talk to Stan Johnson, who's their head coach, and he's talked for such a long period of time about raising the standard, right? And obviously making a play off of his name. But one of the things that that we'll get in with him is how impressed I've been from day one that he took this program and he created energy, he created buzz, and in particular this year, Dave, like he went out and adjusted his staff. And he has one of the most accomplished staffs that you will find at any level of Division I basketball. This is a high major assistant coaching staff around him now. That takes a lot of trust and a lot of faith for a head coach to bring in the guys that he brought in. But I think that's a big part of why the Lions are moving in the right direction. And as a head coach, when you're taking a program that has not had a lot of success for a long period of time, it does take some time to get that program to where you want it to be. And I think the Lions have taken a lot of positive steps so far.
Yeah, so it's a really cool story. Stan's going to join us. Alex Merkviladze, their forward, who's having a nice year, is also going to join us. We're presented, as always, by Hell of a Good Dip. And you and I need to start, Sean, by just talking about Saturday night in Moraga, because we knew it was going to be another good game. 2 good teams. St. Mary's gets the win, 62-58 over the Zags. St. Mary's now has a 3-game lead in this conference, which is hard to believe considering the quality of the WCC. 10-0, USF's 8-3, Zags are now 7-3. And look, we weren't shocked with the way the game played out, but there's a lot of stuff to talk about from Saturday night in Moraga.
There is. And I would say that the 3-game lead is almost insurmountable at this point in time for the rest of the conference, based on how St. Mary's is playing. Now, very difficult week for the Gales. We talked about it before they kind of entered this stretch of how difficult it was. It was big game after big game after big game. And, yes, they had success and they beat Gonzaga. Now they got to validate that by going on the road this week to San Francisco and Oregon State, 2 very difficult teams to play, in particular Oregon State in Corvallis. But outside of something crazy happening, I think that the Gales, with the win that they had on Saturday, will be outright champions in the WCC this year. And we talked about this during the broadcast. The last time that somebody other than Gonzaga was back-to-back champions, you have to go back to Doug Christie at Pepperdine, the same era that you're talking about, by the way, of the Lions winning 5 straight games. It's been that long, and it's a testament to Randy Bennett. Look, how many programs can lose Aiden Mahaney, Joshua Jefferson, and by the way, Alex Duke is playing on a 2-way deal in the NBA, and be 20-3, 10-0 in conference play? And in this 10-game stretch, Dave, I had CB Analytics and the research department, again, at ESPN, look it up. During this 10-game stretch, the numbers and the efficiency in which the Gales are playing would rank number 1 in all of college basketball if that was their ranking for the whole season during this 10-game stretch. That's incredible. They're top 5 in offense. They're top 3 in defense. Like, they are so efficient in how they play the game and how unselfish they are and how they can count on other people to step up to make big plays in big moments. This is a championship quality team that will be wearing a home color uniform in the NCAA tournament. That's my guess. If I was going to hypothetically look out long term, they're going to be wearing a home color uniform in the NCAA tournament with a chance to advance.
Yeah, I think that's right. Look, we teased Randy. Randy was one of our first guests on this podcast earlier in the year about how he likes to be cranky. And you and I have known Randy Bennett for many, many years. And I think he likes to have an edge. He likes to have something to sort of be harping on his team with. And when we talked to him on Saturday, he's really proud of this group. And not to say that they're a finished product, but it was pretty striking how he believes this team has some real upside. And I think, look, the game on Saturday, in a lot of ways, was emblematic of that because Mitchell Saxon got in foul trouble. When he was in there, he played well, but he didn't play a ton of minutes. He ended up fouling out with 4 minutes to go. Augustus Marciulionis had another good game, sort of went back and forth with Ryan Nembhard, great point guard duel, but he was in foul trouble a lot. And the two players down the stretch who ended up making the difference for St. Mary's, a freshman, Mikey Lewis, who we could talk about him. He just had an amazing 5 or 6 minute stretch in the middle of the second half that reminded me of Aiden Mahaney a couple of years ago. And Harry Wessels made 2 huge free throws and blocked a shot against Graham Ike in the final minute plus. It is a deep St. Mary's team, and it doesn't have to be the stars for the Gales who pull out a big win against their rivals.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. Marciulionis was saddled with foul trouble. Saxon fouls out of the game. Like, it's not like the Gales played amazing.
They didn't.
They played just well enough to win the game. And had they made free throws in the first half, when they were 5 of 15 from the free throw line, they would have been up by 14 if they just hit their season average. If they were doing this team season average from the free throw line, they would have been up 14 at the break and in firm control of that game. I think you got to credit the Zags for the fight that we saw. And there's 2 ways to look at this, obviously. Look, there's going to be a rematch up in Spokane. And as we talked about during the game, no 2 teams have played more than these 2 teams in college basketball in the last 10 years. But we talked about this team having great depth, the ability to score the basketball, and it should be tougher and more physical at the defensive end of the floor. And really none of those things showed up to be true on Saturday night in a very big game where those guys in particular needed to step up and help the starters out.
Yeah, I mean, it's well said. And there's more we can talk about with this game. And hopefully later in the podcast, we'll have a few extra minutes. I especially want to highlight Mikey Lewis because it was a really cool thing to watch him sort of come of age on a very big stage in a huge pressure game in a spot where some other Gales were struggling. And this kid stepped up and looked like he wanted to be the guy in the big moments.
You and I, Dave, will be back at that game up in Spokane on February 22nd. Reminder, everyone, that 21st is the Farnham Flatbread fundraiser for the American Cancer Society. 100% of the proceeds will go to the fight against cancer. So it's been highly successful the last 4 years. Really looking forward to this one this season. I will say this, though, Dave. We talk so much about the significance of that game. National audience watching. Everybody got to look at how good this St. Mary's team. It blows my mind that they're not nationally ranked. They are 20-3, 10-0 in conference. I mentioned it earlier in this segment. You look during this 10-game win streak. And during this win streak, by the way, there were 10-plus game win streaks for Michigan State, Duke, Auburn, Houston, all those teams. And St. Mary's is the most efficient team in college basketball. At some point in time, they're going to have to acknowledge just how high level this team has been playing over this 10-game streak. And I hope it comes sooner rather than later because Randy Bennett's team deserves to be nationally ranked right now.
Very well said. I agree with you. And we'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to switch gears and talk to LMU head coach Stan Johnson and Lions forward Alec Merkviladze. We'll do that right after this. All right, welcome back to our Points in the Paint podcast. Talking WCC Hoops, Dave Fleming, Sean Farnham, presented by Hell of a Good Dip. Very happy to be joined by a couple of LMU Lions head coach Stan Johnson, Alex Merkviladze, their forward who's having an outstanding season. LMU has won 5 consecutive conference games for the first time since 1991. Stan, that's a long time, but congratulations on a nice couple weeks for your team. Your guys are playing pretty well, aren't they?
Yeah, we appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a long time. Matt told me that stat last night after the game. But hey, we're proud of it. Guys are playing well. We're starting to figure out who we are and what our identity is. It's taken us a little while to do that. But I like where we're at right now.
Alex, for those of us that, don't get to be there behind the curtain every day with Coach Johnson, how would you describe your head coach to who he is at practice, to who he is as a leader when we aren't there and the cameras aren't on?
By the way, I see Stan leaning in a little closer. Sean got his attention with that question. He's paying attention here.
Be careful, Alex.
No, I mean, definitely, Coach Stan is the type of guy that it's like great leader, whether it's on and off the court, and I'm really looking up to him and every one of my teammates, and he brings energy. I do not remember any day that he just came into practice with no energy, with no emotion. Like, he's an emotional guy, great energy, which kind of me and my team, we feed off. And whatever you see on the screen during the game time, screaming, you never see him sit down during the game time, never. And that's his way to show us that how he's with us and got our back. So whatever you see on the screen, energetic, with lots of effort, that's what he's doing in practice. And on top of that, he's teaching us in every little things all the time to make us like better players after college and in the college. So yeah.
And Sean, you when we first met Stan, that's kind of the first thing you said, wasn't it?
Yeah.
About his coaching style.
Well, first thing, I on a game, my game boards, I always have like a little section for the head coach. I never usually let them see it because I don't want them to see what I really think about them. But with Coach Johnson, the one thing I talked about was the fact that this is an LMU program that for a long time people have been said is a sleeping lion. I'll use the word lion. That's in LA. It's got some good resources to it. This should be a program that is in the top half of the conference on a consistent basis. And he came in with the raise the standard and all those things that he had early. And a lot of that was just about creating juice and buzz and cutting through. And he did it in an innovative way. And to me, that's what's got some people's attention. I live in Southern California. Nobody talked about LMU basketball for a long period of time. Now they're starting to notice, hey, did you see LMU's winning some games? And I think that's a testament to this team, first and foremost. I'll always give credit to these players first. No offense, Coach, but to the players and what they've been able to build. But I also think it's a testament to you, Stan. And I want to take you there because I mentioned this in the first segment. You made some changes on your staff this year, and your staff is a high major staff. This is not a mid-major, low major, whatever you want to call it staff. You've got dudes that have been head coaches of #1 picks in the NBA draft as assistant coaches. You've got guys that have been head coaches in one of the most difficult conferences in the middle portion of the United States of America, who then went and did it at a very high level inside the Pac-12 as well on your staff. There has to take a certain level of self-awareness and self-confidence to have a group of talented people around you like that to come into your locker room, and a lot of trust too, because you got some experience in there. Like, what was your thought process in putting together this staff, and why was it so important for you to bring these guys in this year?
Yeah, it's weird. I tell people all the time, we made a staff change not because of anything. Like last year, we were going to have a great year, and we were decimated with injuries that really, really took the life out of our season. So that change wasn't made because of the season, because our program's been trending in a great direction. I just felt like with all the things that we've had and how we've built in terms of our infrastructure, resources, how people were investing, I felt like we were really close. And I owed it to our players and the university to try to go out and see if we can get people who could get us over the hump. The group we had, they did so much to bring us to this point, but we needed something to try to get over the hump. What we're trying to do is hard. And we were very fortunate to add a guy like Lorenzo Romar, who not only is he, people talk about him as a recruiter. Coach Romar is an outstanding basketball coach, and he's a much better person. To get him, I've had the honor of signing a lot of good players in my career. whether it was at Marquette or whatever. He's the best recruit I've ever signed. Just because selfishly, not only for our guys, where I want to go in the profession, Coach has been there. And I have a guy every day that can mentor me. And I love that. To get, you guys don't know him as well. And it's funny because Romar says this all the time. He said, what would Lewis Wilson do if he was the head coach in like Arkansas? Here's a guy who just didn't have as many breaks in his career. But when I tell you Lewis Wilson is as talented of a basketball mind as I've been around, that's not just me saying that. It's true. I think Alice would vouch for that. And then you go get a guy like Mark Phelps. Mark Phelps, at Arizona and the stops at Marquette and NC State, he was widely regarded as one of the top assistant coaches in America. Also coached at Drake. And then, we've got Ricky Munch, our young guy who we've elevated as well. But, I'm glad you said that, Sean. I mean, we have a really, really good staff. And I want to be around people who are really bright, who will challenge me. I want our kids to have the best teachers possible. That's the kind of environment we want. And we were really fortunate that all the dominoes fell and we were able to get these guys. But, I pinch myself every day when I go to work that, this is what we have here at LMU, and it's really paying dividends.
Talking to Stan Johnson, Alex Merkviladze from LMU for another couple minutes. Alex is from Georgia, not the state of Georgia, the Republic of Georgia. Tell us about your home, Alex. You're a long way from home in LA.
Matter of fact, I love talking about my home country, man. Georgia, Republic of Georgia, because small country, not many people know about it, and it's always honor, and I'm always grateful to represent my country right way. We just got great food, great people. We love having a good time, and I'm honored to be out here because not many people from my country, as a young athletes, get the opportunity to come to the United States and showcase their talent. So I was very fortunate to come out here and be part of this future of basketball.
So
All
what?
right,
Wait, hold on. I want to know about the food.
Yeah, me
my man
too.
said
Me too.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Dave.
You could ask it. I just want to know what the food's like.
That's the big thing for me. Like, you had me with the food. Like, you could have stopped right then and there. Describe for us that maybe don't know what the food tastes like, what our go-to dish is that you maybe miss from home that we should make ourselves more aware of.
I got you. So basically, before you visit Republic of Georgia, you have to lose at least 10 to 15 pounds because you're gaining some. So it's like very fatty food here, and lots of cheese, bread. We have our multiple meat, but my favorite dish will be basically it's called hachapuri. So it's basically like a bread cut in the middle, looks like a boat, and inside the bread there is 3 kinds of cheese, egg yolk, and the butter mixed up, all of them together, and it's hot.
What? Hey, this guy's been here for 4 years. He talks about all this good Georgian food. Not once have I seen anything.
Okay, so I think that's a failure on you, Coach. I'll be honest with you. I gave you a lot of praise for your staff. I'm going to tell you that this is a massive failure on your part. Like, how have we not had Alex cooking this said dish? Because clearly he knows how to make it.
Hey, he's selfish. I'm telling you.
Like, how have you not shared that with your team?
No, he
and
cooks
your coach?
He cooks it, then he eats it by himself.
I don't think our nutritionists will be very happy about that dish.
One time, Stan, you got to find a caterer. There's got to be a Georgian restaurant in LA. It has to be. Bring some food in for everybody.
We're gonna have to do that
one time. Can I end on a weird? We're running out of time. Can I end on a weird question? Because you guys are in LA. I saw Alex is a Lakers fan. Luka, AD. Well, what was your reaction when you heard that?
Well, it's funny. My 9-year-old, we were sitting there, and he's like, last night I was listening to Sean watching the Gonzaga game, and right before you had said that, Luka got traded. I'm like, what? I said, there's no way. You're on some fake account. It's one of those things where it's so big that it took 15 to 20 minutes of researching to figure out if it was really true. Then I heard you say that on air. So, yeah, what an incredible trade. As big as trades I've seen in a long time.
Alex?
Hey, we and a couple guys got breakfast this morning, and all we talked about was that trade that happened, man. And we still cannot believe it. And we were just wondering which side won that trade, and it's still 50-50, man. We need to find out.
Yeah, Coach, by the way, just so you know, when I was told in my ear by our producer on the game, they said, hey, Sean, just so you're aware, Luka just got traded to the Lakers for Anthony Davis. I said, I got the talk back, which is a button that kills it so nobody can hear it. And I said, you're lying to me. Don't lie to me. That's obviously you're looking at some spam account. Like, I'm not going to air with that. And it took me literally going into that commercial break. Kevin Connors, who's the host of SportsCenter that night, he and I start texting back and forth on it. If I find out it's true, and then I brought it to air, and you heard Dave's reaction. I mean, it's gone viral.
Big week for LMU coming up. You got the Zags, you got USF. You guys are on a roll. We really appreciate the time. Thanks, Stan. Thanks, Alex. Good to chat with you both.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
All right, part 3 of our Points in the Paint podcast right after this. All right, welcome back to Points in the Paint podcast presented by I Got Some. Hell of a good dip. But the problem is it's almost empty already.
That's not a problem.
Yeah,
It's so good, it's gone.
Open it up in our house, it's going to be gone.
That's awesome.
Dave Fleming, Sean Farnham. Thanks to Stan and Alex from LMU. It's cool to see that program. Seems like I think they really have taken a step forward. And they're in the mix. I mean, it's a good chance for us in our final minutes here. We're going to take a peek ahead to the games coming up this weekend. There's some big ones. St. Mary's, we talked about them, 10-0. USF 8-3. Gonzaga 7-3. Santa Clara 7-4. Oregon State and LMU each tied at 6-4. How do you see the WCC as of right this moment?
Well, I think that's the separation point, right? We talked about separation for a long time. We thought maybe Washington State was going to be part of it. They've fallen on tough times here. They've lost 4 in a row. But there is separation now starting to occur. Now, the problem is the very top has separated already, and that's St. Mary's. They're 3 games up. A couple things to think about with St. Mary's. I know we talked a lot about them at the start of the show, but 20-3, 10-0 overall. Dave, they're 12-1 at home. They never lose at home, and that's kind of been a staple under Randy Bennett over the last couple of years. Maybe more impressive, they're 6-0 on the road this year. 6-0. They got 2 good road tests coming up this week. Going to be really difficult when you think about San Francisco and Oregon State. And obviously Oregon State, I think, is one of those teams that's, we mentioned it last week, very scary team for a lot of teams in this conference because they've got the ability, and they get 13-1 at home for them. The Dons are 14-0 at home, and that's where St. Mary's is going this week. So combined between those 2 teams, you're talking 27-1. Like, that is, congratulations on beating the Zags. Let's see what you got now. And that's where I think the rest of the nation needs to continue to pay attention to what's going on in the conference and just how difficult some of these environments are in what you're asking of these teams. And, Gonzaga lost at Oregon State, and a big part of that was Michael Rataj and how well he played. Fallah is so good in the paint, ducking in, creating space. But Mitchell Saxon's got to stay out of foul trouble, and he's got to be on the court for sustained periods of time for this Gales team, and this will be a big week. They get through this week unscathed. If they win both these games, Dave, it's a wrap at that point in time completely. Like, I think it's going to be a wrap anyways, but if they win both games this week, it's a wrap, and they can start. It's like Tiger Woods at Pebble Beach with a 13-shot lead, start engraving the trophy, get Stu Jackson ready because he's going to be walking into Moraga and handing it to him at some point in time, maybe even with 2 weeks left to go in the regular season, because that's how well they've positioned themselves at this point in time.
Yeah, I think I do think I agree with you. If they can win both these games this week, that's just such a massive hurdle to clear. I mean, we didn't even mention they beat the Zags this week at home. They also went on the road against Santa Clara, and in the midst of that game, went on a 30-0 run against a good team a good team. Santa Clara just right before that had gone up to Spokane and beaten the Zags. I mean, I don't know if I could ever remember a team, it's not a game against somebody totally overmatched going on a 30-0 runs.
Second longest run in college basketball this year. The other one was Utah State, went on a 34-0 run against Alcorn State. But no run had been for a longer period of time than that run. It was over 13 minutes of actual game time in which the Broncos didn't score in that game. That's the longest timed run of the season, and in the second longest run as far as points go. Absolutely phenomenal, and great point by you, Dave. But there's a possibility that Gonzaga will be playing on Sunday night in Las Vegas, and that has not been a position. But again, for me, what that speaks to is the depth of this conference. Like, maybe the Zags team isn't quite at the level in which we've seen, but they're still a really good team. Ryan Nembhard is one of the best guards in the country, period. Graham Ike is one of the most elite scorers in the paint that we see in college basketball. Okay? But this conference and these teams this year have made this path very difficult for them, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out moving forward.
And I do want to spend a minute before we have to go on San Francisco, because you and I have watched this program, even going back to Kyle Smith. Now you're talking about a decade of building to get to a point where this is a talented and good San Francisco team. It is. But what have we said these last few years about them? They are desperate for a breakthrough win. They need to beat St. Mary's or Gonzaga or both and do it a time or two. And they really have not. They've done everything else over these last few years, including playing an amazing, memorable game in the NCAA tournament when Todd Golden was still the head coach. And this week they have a chance to do it. I mean, they do. Because you're right. Whether there's a real hangover or not, St. Mary's comes to their gym. It's a long rivalry. Those two teams have been playing each other for a century. The gym will be packed. I'm going to be there for that one, which I'm excited to see that game. That would be a breakthrough win, wouldn't it, for the Dons?
It definitely would be. And they've got those opportunities, right? They've got 2 games against the Zags left to play. The one on the road on the 13th, and then the one at the Chase Center on March 1st. But the game at home, a true home environment, a true home game against St. Mary's coming up this week on Thursday night, is going to be just absolutely phenomenal and a big-time game. And it's going to be a night of WCC hoops on ESPN. I'll be in studio in Bristol, Connecticut. I think it's back-to-back games that are going to be on ESPN2, and can't be more excited to be in studio for both those games, talking about this conference and just how it's positioned itself, because I think it's a great opportunity for this Thursday. And that's a night that's been really dominated in large part on the ESPN2 platform by the American. Like we usually have one game in the American, and that's pretty much it that we've seen recently. But now we got 2 games in the WCC, one starting at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and then moving into that next window. It's going to be great. It's going to be a great night to celebrate and talk about what's going on in the WCC. And I'll be in studio for it, so you'll have to listen to me then, and I will not apologize for that.
Will you say hi to me coming back from I'm sure you guys will do.
Oh, my gosh. When we do our toss back, I'm going to tell Seth Greenberg, this is one toss you don't get, partner. I'm sending it back to Dave Fleming.
The other ESPN game to spotlight, Sean, is the one when St. Mary's goes to Corvallis on Saturday. So the Gales have a big test this week. And Oregon State, you and I still are believers in this Beavers team. They've got toughness. They've got some size. They've got a star player who can get big buckets in big moments. Oregon State's got 2. Washington State at home, St. Mary's at home, Thursday, Saturday for the Beavers this week.
Yeah, consistency has been their biggest issue. Every time they get like a big win against Gonzaga, we're like, oh, here they go. And then they lose to San Francisco. Then we're like, oh, they beat Santa Clara. All right, here we go. Then they play Gonzaga, and they get thumped by 38. So now it's like, how do you get back off the mat and find yourself? They've had a little bit of a time. They did not play over the weekend. That's enough time to kind of flush that out and fine-tune things. And I think this is a really important time for Oregon State, because you're coming off a loss, and the best thing that could happen, some coaches would say, let's just go ahead and play again. To me, let's take time, take a step back, then review the film, show where the mistakes are, and let's have an actual window where you can actually try to get better in the late portion of January into now early February to fix some of the things that you can still fix before you get in that stretch run of conference play. And based on how the schedule broke out, that's exactly what they've gotten now with these 2 home games against Washington State and St. Mary's this week. Time to fix some of their issues. I'll be excited to see how they come out and play this week.
Yeah, and we're going to wrap it up now. We have a lot of time to talk about this before the end of the year, but since you mentioned it a couple times tonight, that tournament in Vegas is, I mean, it has a chance to be. We've seen a lot of cool games, you and I, over the years there, and not just in the semifinals and the finals. We've seen some classic performances in lots of different scenarios, but it could be a free for all this year. Really could be.
I think we're going to see some surprises.
Yeah.
I think
so
that
too.
Vegas you're going to see some wild things happen because the margins are so narrow. And I think when you look at the standings, they reflect that. When you look at the results that we've seen, they reflect that. There'll be neutral site games. I think you and I have seen some of the all-time great Champ Week performances. I go back to Jordan Ford and Colby Ross going one-on-one, St. Mary's Pepperdine, multiple overtimes, both guys over 40. Still the only game, I think, in Champ Week history that saw 2 guys go for 40 against each other in the same game. And you and I were there for it, and it was electric. We're going to see something like that this year. I'm not saying you're going to see 40, but you're going to see some buzzer beater, overtime, big moments, big players making big plays, because this is what this conference has been built on this year. And as we enter that final stretch run of conference play now, it's going to be a lot of fun. And you and I are going to sit here each and every week, have some hell of a good dip, and just sit back and talk about it over and over and over again until we get there. And really what I'm excited for is that, I think I can announce it. You and I are going to be on the call for all 5 of those games. We're going to be there Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and you and I are going to be doing those calls. So while we maybe haven't appeared on as many WCC games over the course of the year as you and I have done in the past, this is an important tournament, and you and I both love being part of this event. And I speak for myself. I cannot wait to get to Vegas and to be on the call of this tournament. And here's my challenge. There has to be a commitment made by each individual school to figure out how to get students there. Get the students there. Get the bus, get the rooms, get some packages, especially St. Mary's. All right, Gales, you have no excuse. Your team has performed at a championship level for the last 10-plus years. Show up like you did last night or Saturday night in Moraga in Vegas. Get that student section in Vegas. All right, Oregon State, you guys are Washington State. You're used to coming to Vegas for the Pac-12 tournament. You ain't seen nothing yet. Come to the Orleans, baby. Pack it and make it fun. Like it is a great event, and everybody leaves going, man, that was a great time. The students are what make college basketball. And if you don't come, just understand, McCarthy Center South will be just great. Like, it'll be great. The Zags fans will all be there. But anybody else want to make a lot of noise there? Hopefully they do, because this year is going to be wild, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
We're going to keep that campaign going being into Vegas. We are. Good show. Talk to you on Thursday.
All right. You're the best, Dave Fleming.
All right. That's our Points of the Paint podcast. We will be back with you next week.